Starting 14039.220224. I cannot read. This is the Part-Time Movie Guide podcast. I'm your host, Bin Lee. With me is my co-host, Vanessa Cozini. Today, our guest is Susan Lee.
Hi.
Who is the author-creator of Wraith of Love, which will be our main topic. Just some quick disclaimers. This podcast is brought to you by the movie Office Ninja, which I wrote and directed. It's on iTunes, blah, blah, blah. This podcast is uncensored, so the bad phrase of the episode I have is dinner beneath the bridge, which apparently is a euphemism for mutual oral sex.
Or like, 69?
Yeah, it's a 69, but I guess that's a really proper, discreet way of saying it.
Discreet, okay.
But,
well,
yeah.
The bridge.
My British bad word is tosser, which originated actually as, tossing the salad, which, if you don't know what it means, I'm not going to explain it. But a tosser is basically
a joke.
Yeah, a jerk or a wanker,
Yeah.
Tosser.
Well, you have to say, like, you tosser.
Tossa? There's my horrible British accent. Tossa.
All right, and last but not least, for disclaimers, this episode may contain spoilers. For example, in 1949, the country of Siam has changed its name to Thailand.
Wow.
Who were in the pool of name changes, that's your answer.
Awesome.
I live for your spoilers. I'll tell you.
Informative, educational.
I guess it's educational. I don't know. Maybe it'll be useful in Trivia Pursuit. I have no idea. So obviously back to our main guest here is Susan Lee. Obviously people know me and Vanessa hopefully a little bit. Susan, why don't you give yourself a quick little intro of what you do, and if you have any shit to plug, now's your chance. Although frankly, the last bit of this episode will be plugging that shit as well. So.
Wait, that sounds weird. I'm Susan Lee. I'm a writer, director, artist. I've directed a number of things. I started in theater. I directed theater for about 20 years with the Arc Theater Company and with the Eclectic Company Theater. I've been a film director for the last 10 or so. I took a film to Comic-Con in 2010 called Mastermind, and I'm currently writer-director of a new film we're trying to crowdfund for called Wraith of Love, which is based on my comic book, Wraith of Love. And we have an Indiegogo campaign up right now, which is igg.me/at/Wraith of Love.
Cool. Yeah, I guess we could have, if we knew how to use our freaking lower thirds here, we could have put that there. But
write it on something, we can hold it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, well, I do have like the yeah, should have done that earlier. Yeah, obviously the links will be attached to the podcast when it gets published. All right, so we're going to plow through some topics here that happened over the past week. And we'll probably go through them pretty quick, just given that there's a couple of topics that are kind of bigger than others. One is, for our friends, the Geeky Awards. The second one is coming up this weekend. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to make it, but it sounds like both of you guys are going there. Is that correct?
I'm going for sure.
I'm not. I wasn't invited.
You were.
I never know when to sign up for anything. So.
Well, I was one of the judges, so I get to be one of the cool kids for the night.
Cool.
So. And what are you judging?
I judge the graphic novels and the arts and crafts. So I was really excited. I did the same thing last year, and I was very excited that the one that I thought was the best graphic novel won. and I'm completely unprepared. I forgot which one I really liked this year, but there was one about kids in high school and hell that I really liked, and
Oh, I may have seen that.
yeah, and of course Boston Metaphysical Society, which is always excellent and awesome. So it was interesting this year. There were a lot of good entries this year, and the arts and crafts were all over the place, from these little stuffed, weird-looking things that you can change their emotions on, that my roommate went crazy over, to like Star Wars teacups.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe after the Geeky Awards we can get some behind-the-scene info or something. Just how like the sausage is made.
I'll skulk around and take like pictures on the side.
Facebook that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who don't know about the Geeky Awards, as the title basically says, it's basically like an award show for independent geekhood. Like as Susan, Susan's doing, judging the graphic novels and arts and crafts, but there's some for like movie trailers and music videos and podcasts and personalities. And they're trying to, mostly, trying to do independent people, and I think they have some other rules where like no repeats, and it's like Kristen Netopak has done a great job doing, just running this whole freaking thing. I have no idea how daunting it is, really. I mean, I've had her on one time to kind of rehash what happened in the first one. And so I'm sure she's busy as heck right now. But for those who want to tune in, you can look it up at thegeekyawards.com, I think, and it should be I think it's 5 p.m. Pacific.
I think live streams. The pre-party starts at 5. That's all I'm concerned about. But
Okay.
broadcast might start at 7, but it is going to be on live stream.
Right. So that's where I'll be watching it. I'll just be watching it on my computer. I will not need to dress up and comb my hair.
Because your hair just gets outrageous.
Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. It just gets all over the place. All right. Speaking of geeky stuff, Babylon 5 is having a reboot in the form of a movie. I actually know very little about it. I just saw it on a few blurbs and stuff. I never watched the series, but apparently, yeah, that's happening.
I knew there was a huge following for it back in the day. I tried to get into it, but it's no Andromeda.
I never got into it, but I worked for a minute in special makeup effects, and we did this spin-off from Babylon 5, which was called Crusade, with Gary Cole and early Doug Jones when he was just kind of starting out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love him.
Oh, he was so nice. I got to work with him once or twice on Crusade because he played Big Surprise, tall, skinny, weird-looking alien.
He kind of gets typecasted that way.
Yeah, a little bit.
And we cast him. I worked at the makeup effects house I worked at, Optic Nerve, also did X-Files that season. So we also used Doug in an episode about the Negro Baseball League.
Cool.
Secretly aliens. So, and Doug was in that as well.
Isn't he just the sweetest guy ever?
He's so nice. And this was like back in the early 90s, so nobody really knew who he was other than he was this really cool character actor. We could throw in any makeup and he could make it just come alive. And it was long before that was a really cool thing, He was one of the early pioneers of working in makeup.
He's a hipster. He was doing it before it was cool.
Yeah.
Switching gears, we are, some sports stuff that I found interesting. I don't follow boxing, but apparently there's a promoter who used to be called Frank Maloney. He is having a sex change and now wants to be called Kelly. I'm sure I don't know how big she was in the boxing community, but I'm guessing this is cool for the LGBT community. Just because obviously, boxing obviously kind of has a macho vibe to it, much like how a lot of people were afraid, like people like Michael Sam could not survive in the NFL. I'm sure, I'm sure whoever, if there's a boxing aficionado, maybe this will be a cool, interesting way of progressing, um, that community in sports.
It'll be interesting to see if there's a backlash if she's accepted, you know.
Unfortunately, there's always going to be a backlash because people just fear what they don't understand.
Yeah.
It's the internet. Sports is irrational, and also this is a very, for lack of a better word, antiquated sport. So yeah, but a bigger thing that I found interesting was the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit has now been put in favor of the plaintiffs, I guess. Basically, it's a lot of it. It still needs to be fleshed out, but basically, the NCAA is culpable in taking advantage of all these students for all their sports activities and making billions of dollars off of it and not giving a cent to any players. And now has allowed and said that these students should be paid to play for the teams. Apparently, the NCAA, being the shrewd business people already, has already delegated some rule-making powers to the Big Five conferences. I don't follow NCAA anymore, just in the last few years, just because of I feel like it's a very hypocritical piece of crap organization. But it'll be interesting to see the ramifications of it, because I mean it's just now been for decades where these large schools have been taking advantage and making so much money, and especially given that so much knowledge about player safety in college football and hockey, how does that, what are the ramifications of that are? So yeah, I thought that could be a pretty big deal. And switching gears again, I don't know really how to segue to this, but I felt
There's
like
no segue.
Yeah,
the St. Louis Ferguson riots is obviously odd, in a fascinating thing, just because it's kind of happening in the heartland of America. For those who are not familiar by now, basically a black kid got shot by the police, and from most of the testimony so far, it seems like it was very, very unjustified, and there's been a lot of rioting and looting in that area.
Why? Why do people loot when they're protesting? That just never ever makes sense to me.
Well, there's a theory. I studied sociology for a few years, and I asked my teacher the same question: why do people resort to that? And he turned me onto the thing. Mass hysteria is more than just a term; it's an actual symptom of a sociological, psychological issue that we have. Is when so many people get together in such an angry, passionate way, they tend to switch off the parts of their brain that tell them this is a wrong, this is right. So they go, well, I'm so angry, I gotta, they gotta get that feeling out, and they're feeding off of each other. And that's the worst part about it, because it just escalates and escalates. And that's, I think, why we're having issues like looting, is because it's an escalation of all of these passionate people that are very, very angry for very good reason, and they unfortunately take their anger out in a very bad way, and it does nothing to help the problem, and mostly because it's unorganized. that's, I think, 90% of the problem, is that if you have somebody who's organized, who's saying we will do peaceful protests, we will make sure we are heard, not end up on the 6 o'clock news for showing pictures of looted stores. You don't see the crowds being peaceful and chanting. You see the stores, and then the reporters mislead you by saying that the people are chanting "kill the police." Actually, they're chanting "no justice," and it just sounds like "kill the police." So don't actually tape the people saying the words. They can get away with so much. It's rather ridiculous.
Well, because it's a cult, it's creating that culture of fear and feeding that culture of fear. You know, we can't show.
Perfect at.
Yeah, exactly. We can't show the peaceful protest, the one that's actually accomplishing something. We have to feed the fear of, oh my God, look, this black person got killed, so all the black people are going to protest, and look what awful things the black people do, and just create that fear and continue pushing that stereotype instead of going, this was an awful thing that happened to a kid. Pure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also earlier offline, Vanessa also talked about how it's kind of interesting to see the social media, how there's I forgot the hashtag, but it's something like...
I'm looking it up right now, actually. It is "if they gunned me down." It's a hashtag.
Down, yeah, as a hashtag, and basically you juxtapose two pictures of one, you know, in your normal, whatever, safe setting, and there's one where, as an African American, you're kind of in a hood photo. I mean, it's, you know, it's part of their culture, and it's kind of just it's kind of feeding off of that same like Trayvon Martin situation of like, just because someone wears a hoodie does not make this person a threatening person.
Right.
You know, so something like that. You know, it definitely an interesting. I think that's an interesting part of the conversation, and an interesting way of trying to like raise awareness about, you know, looks are not everything.
And
so
the
yeah.
media, you can't trust them. They're going to choose, because that's the whole point of the two pictures, is you have these two pictures up. If they gun me down, which picture is the media going to show? Is it going to show me going like this, which I'm pretty certain was like the world's worst gang sign ever? Here, I'll do West Side. I actually know what that means. I grew up in Anaheim. But so, and then there's the picture, the graduation photo, where they're all cleaned up and nice, and you know, which photo do you think the media is going to post up? And they did the same thing, and then they've actually coined a term, the Trevor effect, for the George Zimmerman shooting of the boy Trevor. Because
you mean Trayvon?
Trayvon.
Thank you. Sorry, that was horrible. I couldn't remember it, and I'm like, I know that there's a T and an R and an E.
Okay, so I misinterpreted that hashtag because I thought it was a matter of like, because I don't know what the circumstances of why the kid was shot down, but I thought it was a matter of like, you know, people just assume because you wear baggy clothes or, you know, hang out in certain areas that, you know, it's one of those like urban things that you just get gunned down or something. But I think that's also a very good point, is that the whole media, you know, misconstrue, misinterpret, mislead, whatever, any of those M words, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, the media does that oftentimes also, like, as an example, like, you know, Fox News, if they wanted to slam, you know, a Democratic, you know, candidate, they'll find the most embarrassing picture, you know, where either Hillary looks, you know, extra wrinkly that one day or something like that. All right. Anyway, all right. Enough of that. You know, that's obviously a very serious topic that can be explored much more later on. But on to more lighthearted stuff. I guess not. Lauren, we lost two legends today in the past like 48 hours or so. Lauren Bacall, like, I've yet to really digest this, really. To be honest, I think I don't remember which movies I've seen of hers. But it was obviously a while ago.
She did a lot with Humphrey Bogart.
Right.
Well, because they had a very long, torrid love affair, so they were almost more known for their love affair than for the films they made together.
Mm. Right.
Oh,
His
she was in How to Marry a Millionaire. I love that movie.
Also, for those who are fans of Game of Thrones, J.J. Murphy passed away. I'm actually not familiar with the actor,
I'm not either.
but I think Vanessa can add to this.
Our dear J.J. Murphy played on Game of Thrones as one of the oldest members of the Night's Watch, and he also had an upcoming film, Dracula Untold, opposite Luke Evans.
Oh, okay.
He's a lovely man and a wonderful actor. There's such an impact on this that they've actually decided, producers said they will not recast. And what they said about him was lovely, is like his watch has ended. For those who are Game of Thrones fans that understand the Night's Watch, it's a very powerful and beautiful statement to make. It's, you know what, we're going to respect that, this man has passed, and we're not just going to recast him and act like it didn't happen. We're just going to grieve and move on, and the show will find a way to carry on, of course. Just not recasting, which I think was a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a nice honor to the actor to say, we don't want to try and replace you. We're going to respect what you brought to the table.
And he was actually right in the middle of shooting when it happened, too.
Mm.
Yep. All right, but of course, the biggest hole left in show business right now has been Robin Williams. Vanessa, I think you wanted to kind of touch up on depression. I mean, I think the facts are slowly trickling in. We don't know, exactly, but it sounds like depression was a big part of his, was one of his demons, aside from the much publicized alcohol and substance abuse.
Alcohol and substance abuse is often, if not usually, a symptom of depression. And it's not widely talked about, and awareness, I think, is the most important thing and one of the most important tools. I'll never forget being 18 years old and confessing to somebody that I had depression, and they said, well, why can't you just be happy? People don't always understand, and we can't be angry at them for their ignorance, because being angry doesn't help. The only thing that does help is education. I think it's extremely important. Everybody should arm themselves with knowledge in all fronts of life, and this more importantly than most, because it's people who live with depression, usually it's a lifelong battle. It's, every day you've got this kind of hanging over you in a way. Some days are easier than others, and when you have support, it's always 1,000 times easier. When you have people that you love and you trust, you can look around and go, this is why I fight. This is why I stay. And sometimes it gets the better of us, and I don't think... I've seen a lot of horrible things said about Robin Williams' suicide. At this point, that's what I'm led to believe it was. We can't know a person's insides. We can't know a person's heart or mind, and we don't know his demons. We can only speculate. And I hope everybody respects the fact that he was a wonderful person. He touched so many lives. And yes, he lost the battle, but he left something behind that, there's an awareness, there's talk. It's always the first step in any type of, educational situation.
Yeah, it's the hard thing with depression, because people don't understand. I've battled it all my life. I've had twice where I've come very close, recently in fact. And people who love me want you to feel better, and they just say, you need to just reframe things and just rethink. And it's like, if it were that simple, I would be doing that. But it's something deeper. It's something that's really impossible to explain unless you've gone through the middle of it. I've had very few people really understand my depression in my life. A guy I dated a while ago was one of the few people who just understood that I didn't need to be fixed. I didn't need to be solved. I just needed, he would just be there and just be kind. And, he helped me in so many ways by not trying to help me, just being there and making me know that I was loved. And that's the simplest thing. And I can't imagine what someone like Robin Williams, who had access to the best care in the universe. But when you see him riffing on stuff and you see all of these characters and these things falling out of his head, can you imagine what must live in his head?
It must be awfully crowded.
Yeah, I can't imagine how he ever had any peace with all of that stuff rattling around in his head. And we can just be grateful for the fact that he shared it with us.
Yeah.
Today I watched Hook because it's still my favorite Robin Williams movie. And I had a friend come over, and she's a little bit younger than I, and we just talked about how going into that movie is just like walking right back into your childhood. And Robin Williams was my childhood. It was a lot of our memories and, cinema history. There's just so many wonderful, wonderful things he's given us.
Oh, Fisher King was such a complicated, complex, fascinating character in Fisher King. I think that's my favorite thing I ever saw him in.
Yeah, there's still a lot I still haven't seen of his. I actually still haven't seen any episodes of Mork and Mindy. It's on my to-do list, but I also I've heard a lot of good things about Fisher King. For me, I mean, my favorite probably would have to be Aladdin, just because it coincided with a time when I grew up to those modern Disney classics of Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Lion King. It was that string of great movies. But also it was that, along with like Miss Doubtfire in my early childhood. Probably watched those movies a gajillion times. I mean, Miss Doubtfire probably might be cringeworthy now. I have no idea. It might be outdated.
Oh, but it's so beautifully nostalgic.
I guess.
That's what I love about it.
I
Yeah.
mean, as I guess one of the few silver linings of this tragedy, of course, is not only just the awareness of hopefully maybe just having depression and being aware of suicide just adds awareness, and maybe it saves other young people in the future. That might be a silver lining, and also probably it prevented Miss Doubtfire 2 from ever happening. Which, sorry, I know it's too soon, but I couldn't
That was horrible. Oh.
You're not the first one to say that, though.
No, I'm sure I was not.
But speaking of suicide and awareness, I gave you the link that we will be posting with this video of the Suicide Prevention Help website. You can call, you can chat. Sometimes it's too hard to talk. Sometimes all you can do is type on a keyboard, and you just need to reach out to somebody who can be there and listen, and there's always people. And just know you're not alone. That's the most important thing, I think, with dealing with anything, is knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
I have many friends who have depression that they say the best thing they ever had was other people who went through what they went through to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just be kind to those who suffer from it. We don't always show it. I mean, we're taught to put the happy face on and to just sort of suck it up and put on the cheerleader and, you know, be happy. And sometimes it's not that easy. And sometimes we just need to know that we're not alone. You know, it's when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to look out and see that there are people there. And sometimes we need to know that there is somebody there. So if you know somebody's going through a hard time, don't try to fix them. Just, you know, reach out and say, hey, I love you, I'm here. Let me bring you ice cream, you know.
And that is the best thing. That is honestly the best thing in the world, is just knowing that somebody's there. You don't need them to do anything. Just know, just be present.
Yeah.
And ice cream helps.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ice cream helps everything, so.
All right, well, I don't know how else to transition, but yeah, let's
Moving on.
Let's get to our main topic here. Susan here has written a graphic novel called Wraith of Love, and she is currently in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign to make a feature film out of it. Tell us more about this.
Well, Wraith of Love is, I think, a very unique thing because it's female. I don't want to say female-centric because it's not. It's an action film written and directed by a female, produced by females, and all the leads are females. The male lead in it, I always jokingly say, is the girl. He's the love interest. So he's the one that he doesn't save the day. He doesn't save the lead character, James.
So he's kind of like the male version of the Smurfette syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful.
And it's challenging because I had a wonderful actor involved until he got cast in something else. But he was integral in getting the character developed because he kept coming to me saying, you know, this is not a guy I like. This is not a guy I'd want to hang out with. How do we make him less of the chick, but not the dominant force, you know? And it's a challenge because the point is to bring a strong, complex woman to the action genre. Someone like the bride in Kill Bill. She is such an interesting character. Whereas most women in action, my fight choreographer, Steve Huff, put it really well. He was like, women in action either tend to be the victim or an automaton, you know, sort of a robot, somebody who loses all their emotions. Like Lucy, if you saw Lucy recently. She's just loses her emotions while she gains access to the rest of her brain. And it was kind of a dumb film anyway, but...
well, now I know not to see it.
I was just... And I love Luc Besson. I mean...
Actually, I thought Lucy was... I haven't seen it, but I mean, my impression was it's an interesting, like, kind of train wrecky of a movie. What you talked about, how she kind of loses her personality, is kind of interesting because it's a pretty common trope in like anime where the females, you know, it's kind of stems from the whole like females are not treated as human beings in their media a lot of times, where you know they're put on these pedestals as either they're beings that males do not know how to interact with. And so like movies like Metropolis, not the original Franz Lintz Metropolis, but the Japanese one, you know, has a very similar arc. I think like Ghost in the Shell has a very similar trope. So it just kind of reminded me of that. But sorry, didn't mean to digress. But
well, and for me, I mean, I'm an action film junkie. So I love the Dark Knight series, are three of my favorite films of all time. I love the Bourne series. I love that kind of dark, twisted, deeply complex kind of character. And it's rare to see that complexity in women in action. I mean, if you look at Elektra on the page is a complex character, but when they made that awful movie, they lost all of the complexity. Same with Catwoman with Halle Berry. It was more about how she looked in leather than what kind of...
my two cinema sins. Oh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's part of one of those perpetuating cycles in Hollywood about studio claiming that nobody wants to see female lead action movies, but then on the flip side, there has not been really any, good examples. Like Hollywood hasn't done a good job of, trying to make them as high quality, so to speak, as other action movies. I mean, I guess Tomb Raider,
that was
I didn't love Tomb Raider the movie, but a lot of people did seem to find a lot of like silver linings out of that, saying at least she was not like it was not a horrible movie, which is not the greatest compliment in the world.
well, and people keep like bringing up Hunger Games, which is yes, it's a female-led film. It is such an ensemble piece, really. Yes, Katniss is the center of it, but it is so much more an ensemble piece. I really want to kind of shake up the genre and do something like Kill Bill. I mean, Wraith in tone is very Dark Knight in tone. It's very dark. In fact, when I was writing, as I've been developing the script over the years, I wanted the opening to be her basically getting the shit beat out of her by her boyfriend at the opening. That's what kind of spurs her on. And I thought, I can't go that dark. That's really dark because I want it to be harsh. And then I saw Dark Knight, and I came out of Dark Knight and went, I'm going home to write because this is the tone I want. And I just kind of decided, screw it, I'm going to go with that tone. And she's a deeply complex character. I have a great actress, Melissa Sikowski, who's kind of brand new, but she's just got that edge and that world weariness to her, and she's going to be amazing. And there's a great sidekick who I've cast, Patty Jean Robinson, who I know you guys know.
Woo!
Lovely.
Yeah.
Patty is fantastic because she's very funny, just in general. But I've directed her in a couple of things. I directed her in a very deep drama a number of years ago called Keely & Do, where she plays a girl who's she's a pregnant woman kidnapped by a Right to Life group who hold her hostage and try to force her to have her baby.
Wow.
Yeah. Like
that's intense.
And Patty was brilliant. A depth of drama that blew me away. So she's going to be the sidekick, sort of wisecracking, but there's a depth of character that she brings to it. So,
right.
I want the action.
Before we continue on with the cast, I hope you don't mind if we rewind a little bit.
Please.
Just kind of curious, can you tell me what the premise is of the original graphic novel and kind of where that originated from?
Sure. It started as a joke. I fell in love with a guy who was one of my best friends, and I jokingly said to my friends, there should be a superhero for unrequited love. And Wraith of Love came out of that. It's about a woman, James, who comes back from a suicide attempt with the ability to sense people who are in abusive or tragic relationships, and she becomes a vigilante for them. And that triggers a centuries-old love triangle that she has to figure out how to break the cycle and change the destiny to save herself, the man she loves, and possibly the world. So complex, hard to pitch in one sentence.
How far are you into the graphic novel?
I just finished the graphic novel. It's up online. It's 28 pages long. It's black and white, very much inspired by Frank Miller, although I won't deign to even approach the world that he's in. And the graphic novel is actually the first act of the film. So it's just really introducing the characters, her origin story. And it was fun to draw. I was mentored by some amazing comic book artists. Jeff Johnson, Dan Panosian held my hand all the way through and helped me figure out how to do this. So my first graphic novel, it was kind of daunting.
It's really lovely. It really is. I do love your art style, the shading, the darkness of it. It really pulls you into the right tone for what you want to talk about with your characters.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a little daunting to jump into my first graphic novel and make it so stark and so different. from what's out there. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And that carries into the tone of the movie, where it's going to be dark and moody and, maybe a little Sin City in tone. And, I was working on the graphic novel with the idea to eventually turn it into a film and in some distant future. And then I ran into Steve Huff, who's this brilliant fight choreographer, told him about it. He read it, showed up at an art show I was doing, and was like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. And it all sort of fell together. And over the last year, we've worked the script a lot to try to get it right, to just get it really deep and get it really powerful. And I think we've accomplished that.
So, as kind of asking about from like an artistic standpoint, so originally you started off, thinking of this as a graphic novel, and then midstream you decided to try to make this into a feature film?
Well, it's a screenplay I've had floating around for years.
Okay.
The one in the bottom drawer that you pull out and you go, oh, I'm going to work on this a little bit, and then you put it back because it is pretty. When I started writing it about 8 years ago, the access to equipment wasn't like it is today, where you can shoot an entire film on your iPhone. So when I started writing it, I thought it's a little too big to do on the total guerrilla no budget. But now that's changed by the availability of digital filmmaking. So
right.
It's something I just kept pulling out and writing and pulling out and writing. And then when I met all these comic book guys at this thing I go to, Drink and Draw, I started thinking, this might make a really cool graphic novel, and that might be a good jumping off point to get the film made.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So you have the first volume, which is, her origin story and whatnot, and you say that's the first act of the movie. Do you plan on continuing after the movie or during the movie?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. While we're in crowdfunding and trying to put production together, I'm on a little bit of a hiatus because I also need to go back and clean up the first novel, just make it pretty so we can do like a hard copy print of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be 3 volumes altogether to hit each act of the film. So.
Okay.
It was interesting because the script was changing while I was drawing the graphic novel, and trying to figure out what do I want to change in the graphic novel as we rewrite the script. So it was an interesting sort of juxtaposition of having these 2 artistic pieces go together at the same time.
Yeah, I mean that's like well, because I'm in the middle of trying to write a graphic novel at the same time, but like I'm just curious about like for you constantly switching back and forth between the 2 different media. Did you find it to be a very distracting challenge? Like how, or was there actually some benefit in like, oh, I didn't think of it this way, because obviously both are very visual mediums. That's where it can be useful. So like, did you find it more challenging or than you thought, or was it like, did it illuminate extra nuggets that you probably might not have done if you just followed one media?
Right. It was really interesting because it made me really visualize what I want with the film, because you have to when you're drawing the graphic novel. And Jeff, my mentor, kept coming back to, you're a filmmaker, so make sure, just think of every panel as a frame of film. And the interesting thing was they're so different that something that on film I could do in a page of script might be 6 pages of graphic novel. So I had to kind of decide, those beats that in the film will take 1 minute are going to be 5 or 6 pages in the graphic novel. And do I want to eat up that much time in the graphic novel, or do I want to cut it? What is the point? So it was really such different storytelling, and having to really get down to the nitty-gritty in the graphic novel of, these are the exact points I want to make without a lot of filler. So it was kind of interesting writing both sides at the same time.
Huh. So did you feel like it was was it pretty difficult to I lost my train of thought.
Well, I have an off-the-wall question.
Yes.
How on earth did you snag Bill A. Jones?
Bill is a very good friend of my friend Mark. And I've met Bill a number of times through Mark. And I saw him the beginning of the year at Mark's birthday party. We were chatting about things. And I said, and I kept thinking, he'd be great for this doctor. It's not a big part, but he's the doctor that kind of saves James after her suicide attempt. And just as we were talking, it occurred to me that he might be really good for that part. So I just said to him, hey, when we get around to it, can I send you the script? And sent him the script, and he said, of course, schedule permitting with glee, he's absolutely excited about the idea of doing it. So he's a sweet guy, really, really lovely man. Apparently quite the big band singer, which I
Really?
Yeah. Mark was telling me he saw him. He performs as a little cantina by the equestrian center.
Huh.
And, he sings there, I guess. But awesome guy, really, really sweet. Very excited to have him on board.
Okay, so I'm going to have to throw my ignorant card. I don't know who that person is.
It's Rod Remington from Glee.
Oh, okay.
Love him.
I still don't know what that is.
He's the anchor man that Jane Lynch's character Sue had a hot torrid affair with, and he broke her heart, and he tends to be the judge on all the regional competitions. So,
Oh, okay, so he's like a recurring character.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's great cameo. He's cameo gold.
Well, and there's rumors, which I won't confirm yet because we haven't confirmed it, of another really nice cameo, possibly somebody from Falling Skies.
Ooh.
That's all I'll say because we haven't confirmed it yet, but we're
Heard it here first.
yeah, we're reaching out to it, and it's been interesting because I'm trying. I love the actors that we've cast. They're all theater actors. They're all friends, people that I know that are amazing actors, and it's a little challenging to sort of buck the trend of trying to find a name actor to carry the film. So we're looking to fill some of the other roles with some great cameos, like Bill, like this secret guy that maybe over there will be coming in. And, it's easier to get them for a day or two than say, look, we need you for 25 days.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I learned as well. So could you go into your casting? You kind of talked about your cast, but so how did you come about getting your main lead? And can you talk about what other what interesting pre-production that you've gone through?
Sure.
For it?
Patty's been involved with it since the very beginning, since I started writing the script 8 years ago, because we were both at the same theater company together. And I started developing the sidekick best friend character for Patty because she's just got that great quirky, oddball, funny streak, yet she's capable of such depth at the same time. So there was never a question that Patty was going to be the role of Serena all the way through it. And she has been amazingly supportive and involved in every reading that she can be, and just giving notes on what she thinks. And I use Patty all the time. She's one of my go-to actors for just about anything. So if you need an awesome actress, Patty Jean Robinson. And then with the lead, Steve, my fight choreographer, I had a couple people in mind, and he said, would you mind reading Melissa? She's one of his fight team. I had met her a couple of times. I liked her look. And I said, sure. And I kind of looked at her resume, and I thought, okay, I would really like somebody with a little more experience. But she came in to read for me, and there's an opening monologue of the character that she nailed, just nailed. And the opening monologue, actually, you're not going to see the character. It's over a fight scene. But as I was listening to her do the opening monologue, I thought I could just put the camera on her and just shoot her, and it would be just as powerful as the fight scene. And every reading she's done with me, she just gets the character, which is going to make it so much easier to get a performance because she already gets 90% of it. And she's on Steve's fight team, so she already has the fight quality. She knows how to fight. We shot a teaser trailer with her, and she picked it up like nothing, and she looks great. That's Melissa Sitkowski. She's just awesome.
So was Melissa in all of the fight scenes in that teaser? Because there's one that's a pretty elaborate shot, elaborate action of bouncing off the wall and then hitting the bad guy. Was that her as well, or was that a stunt double?
Her. That's totally her. She was so excited when we were rehearsing it. I went to watch the rehearsal and talk to Steve about what I wanted to shoot. And I kind of jokingly said I would love like some, like run up the wall and come. And he was like, okay. And bam, there it was. And she nailed it. She's fearless. She's not afraid to try anything, which is exactly what I'd hoped for someone like that. And then for the villain, for Kelly, wonderful, again, another actress from theater, Bernadette Belinda York, who is in Patty's fight class. And Bernadette is awesome. She's this cute blonde. You would never think of her as a villain, which is part of the fun of it. And she is great fight training. We haven't gotten into fight with her yet, but I can't wait to see her and Melissa go up against each other because their chemistry together is really, really fantastic.
Cool.
So tell us more about crowdsourcing, about your Indigo project, your hopes, your goals, your dreams.
Crowdfunding is challenging right now because everybody's crowdfunding, like the guy crowdfunding for potato salad. Trying to stand out in that is a challenge. We have an Indiegogo campaign up right now. Just trying to keep content going constantly. I posted a new trailer today that hoping maybe might screen at the Geeky Awards. But just trying to keep stuff in front of people, and I think the biggest thing is just trying to reach people and say, we're trying to shake up the action genre. We're trying to put some estrogen in it without making it weak. I always call myself as a director, I'm Tarantino jacked up on estrogen.
I love that. That's awesome.
And that's how I feel this film is. It's action jacked up on estrogen. She's a hardcore. It's a love story like Kill Bill's a love story. It's unlike anything you're going to see out there. And so we're halfway through our crowdfunding. We started back in the end of July, right before Comic-Con. And we have 3 weeks left. We end on September 2nd. And we're hoping to raise, pie in the sky, we'd love to raise $35,000. I'd be happy with 10. And we could shoot a lot for 10. But 35 would be amazing. So if anybody out there has $35,000 sitting around, feel free to
grab that checkbook now.
Yeah. And we have some fun perks. Of course, you'll get the graphic novel. One of the higher perks is I will draw you into the second volume in some way. You can also get a portrait from me done in my cool Deco Noir black and white style. You can get a workshop with Steve Huff from Iron Shield Arms. You can even get a cameo and have your ass kicked.
I love the necklace that you had up for a couple days. I couldn't get my funds together in time for it. I wanted to get that.
Maybe we can make it happen. It was just a prototype. I was messing around with polymer clay one night and came up with that and really liked it. So
it's gorgeous. It really is.
We might put it up again as a perk. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, keep you posted. Can you tell us more about the necklace? I feel like it was really interesting in the graphic novel how it showed up, and it obviously has severe significance, but I look at the symbolism, and it's very unique, and I wonder where you got the ideas for the different symbolism.
It's hard. I've been trying to figure out what to use as an amulet for a long time, and the amulet is something she wakes after her suicide attempt. She has this vision of this ancient I'm out of words. This ancient ceremony, and she wakes up from the suicide attempt with the amulet in her hand, and it's sort of her source of power. So I wanted to have something really strong and really interesting, but not something you've seen before. And on the background, I wish I had the amulet out here. It's in my room. On the background of it is just a bunch of Chinese writing. But the symbol on top of it is actually an ancient, like, alchemy symbol that represents protection from evil spirits.
Oh.
And I was messing around one night and just going, what happens if I put all this together? And that came out of it. And I threw some paint on it and made it look like metal. But it's really polymer clay underneath all of it. So it symbolizes protection, and I want it to symbolize sort of redemption and power for this character.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have two questions about that amulet as well. One is, even because even though I am Taiwanese, I don't read Chinese. Do you know what the Chinese symbols mean? And two, since I sadly have not read the graphic novel Vanessa has, but based on the cover itself, it appears that amulet does have some sort of secret, like, supernatural power. Like, was that just is that part of the plot of the movie, or is it just kind of a more symbolic, like, this is a woman with power?
No, it absolutely is. It's the key to her power. When she wakes up from the suicide attempt with the amulet in her hand, every time she has a vision, the amulet starts to glow. And when she finally meets Kelly, when she finally meets the villain, she realizes that Kelly has maintained her memory over these centuries of what their relationship is and maintained her power. And James realizes that the source of her power is the amulet. And this is going to be 2 films, by the way. This is part 1. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So towards the end of the first film, she realizes that this amulet is what contains all her power, and she has to figure out how to channel that. So we don't get too much into it in the first film, and when I actually get around to writing the second film, it will become more important.
Right. And the main character's name is James, so I'm assuming that's intentional to, play around with, masculine and feminine names.
Yeah, I tend to name most of my characters with masculine names. Her full name is Jameson Mercer. Might have something to do with the fact that I like whiskey. I don't know. It came about that way. Maybe.
About to ask.
I don't see the connection at all.
Funny thing is, I have heard of a girl named Jameson.
And it just seemed like a really cool name. I wanted her to have a really cool name. And I've done that a lot. I have a love story, romance, oddball piece, and her name is Harley. I just like those stronger, more powerful names. I tend to use Joe a lot, that kind of thing, because it lends a masculinity to it. And I sort of intentionally go there every time to give them a little, just a little more strength. And also, cool. Feminine names don't always carry that.
Right. All right. Well, I think we're about to be running out of time here as we're wrapping things up. Vanessa, did you have any more anything else that you thought was interesting when you read the graphic novel, or any questions?
I don't have any questions on the spot. I hate being on the spot. No,
I didn't mean to put you there, but I was just,
No, I love it. I just want to say, please let's make this happen, because this sounds amazing. It looks amazing. There's amazing people involved. From the graphic novel to the screen, I think is going to be just wonderful, knowing the people involved.
I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Steve Huff from Iron Shield Arms, because he's the fight choreography, so all the stuff that you see in the teaser trailer and the new trailer all come from him. And the beautiful thing about him is he gets it. I don't think we have had a full conversation about the style. When we did the teaser trailer, I just kind of went, I want it to look like this and a little like Bourne series, and it's a lot of, I want kind of, you mean like and that kind of, and I show up and he creates brilliance. And he reads my mind. So I'm so thrilled to have him on board, because he he gets it. He just gets it.
Cool. So can you repeat what the URL is for the Indiegogo?
Sure. It's igg.me/@/Wraith of Love. So IGG.me @Wraith of Love.
Right. And of course, like I said, we'll put that on the we'll attach that to the podcast as well.
Great. And wraithoflove.com, you can link to the graphic novel if you want to read that now.
Okay. So that's available for free, or is it for? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's available. You can read it online. You can't download it. That will come soon and cost you money.
Are you planning on hitting the conventions with it for physically wanting to buy words?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now with Long Beach Comic-Con coming up and Kamikaze. Now that I actually have it done, we didn't want to make too many plans. Life has gotten in the way several times trying to get it drawn. So now that it's done, Sarah Bauer, my co-producer, and I are discussing what to do in the next 6 months with it so people can actually put their hands on it.
Cool. So I have one last question. It's not exactly directly related to Wraith, but because I also started off just writing movie screenplays, and then this is my first time writing a comic book, which is similar to a graphic novel. What advice would you give to someone who's used to writing movie screenplays to try to write for a graphic novel?
Keep it simple. Really think about what points you want to make. The best advice I got from Jeff Johnson was when you get to the bottom of the page, you have to have something to make them want to turn the page. And that's a real big challenge. And like I said, when I was writing it, I would find something that in the script would take a minute on screen, but you really have to think about what point do I want to make on each page. What piece of the story am I trying to tell on this page that's going to make you go to this page? So it's a little bit different in the terms of storytelling because you have to sort of make the reader want to turn that page.
Okay.
So the best advice I would say, just think about what is that story on that page.
Cool. Well, thanks for that wise words of wisdom. All right, well, I guess thank you, Susan, for taking the time to talk to us about your awesome project.
Well, thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Obviously, best of luck in the crowdfunding, and we're looking forward to seeing the final product. And yeah, so thanks for watching or listening, whoever you are. Next week, I think we may be talking about the NFL. I actually haven't gotten the okay from Vanessa about this, but
Hold on. Here we go. I'm ready. I got it. I'm ready.
Okay, I see. Okay, so I think we may be talking some sports next week. All right, so yeah. Susan, you're on Twitter. I think Wraith of Love has its own Twitter handle, and you have your own. Is that correct?
Right, Wraith of Love, and you can find me at Life on Its Side.
Life on Its Side. Okay. Vanessa can be reached at Crazy for Cult.
Because I'm crazy, and I like all things cult.
You can reach me at PT Movie Guy because part-time movie guy is too many characters for Twitter. Anyway, so yeah, this was really fun. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
It's been great having you.
It's been fun. We'll follow up with the Geeky Awards next.
Yeah. All right, so say goodnight, Susan.
Good night.
Say goodnight, Vanessa.
Good night, Vanessa.
And I am Ben Lee, and Turn Down for what?